My name's Alan Lewis. I work for the Greater London Authority, which is the home of the Mayor of London and the London Assembly. So it's the strategic government for London with powers around police, fire, emergency planning and transport. My particular role sits within the intelligence unit, and that's sort of a team of demographers, GISers, social researchers and economists. Number crunching, I guess, for the GLA itself. Like most organisations, I guess we had a number of legacy data systems and databases, all different formats that we needed to try and talk to each other. So, you know, in some cases it was reading in historic formats from legacy databases, converting them to a new format and into a master data warehouse. Equally, we've got a lot of data processing churn that we have to do. So this is processing ordnance survey data. A lot of the, I guess, the core base mapping kind of data sets the organisation uses that are done on a sort of a regular basis. So that's a very big problem for the organisation. And, you know, just one-off project-based data processing tasks. You know, it's all very messy and very knotty, and the intricacies of each sort of database and policy problem are quite difficult to resolve. Straight off the bat, FME talks to loads of different languages, loads of different database formats and structures, so that ticks the box immediately, because we knew that we could get our different systems to communicate with each other, you know, using one application basically to join it all together. So the great thing about FME is that we can automate these processes as well. So the sort of scheduled tasks that we run every quarter or every 6 weeks that are processing all these external data sets, we don't really need to get our hands dirty with anymore. We can just let them run on the server and do the processing. So all the latest base maps are always there for the organisation to use. Equally, on sort of more project-based problems, we can use FME that will, you know, pull in data from different sources, so policy areas around the building, they'll provide data to us. We can use FME to process, clean, validate, merge with other data sets, etc., and then spit out data in a nice format for, you know, other projects, web maps to consume or to be shared on somewhere like the London Data Store, for example. You know, the big pluses for FME for us is its intuitive nature. So you don't have to be a coder to be able to run anything with FME. You can literally just push the play button if somebody else has produced the FME workbench for you. So that's a real plus. So as sort of staff churn and new people come in, they can continue to deliver projects without any kind of upskilling available. They can literally push play and run the workbenches. The other great thing is it's self-documenting. You know, we don't have to have these big Word documents explaining the methodology to update data for a particular web map. It's all there on the canvas in the workbench. So immediately that saves a lot of time and a lot of energy from other staff. As I mentioned, scheduling is great because we can schedule these workbenches to run nightly, quarterly, however often we need them to. And the other great thing is that we're often sharing data with third parties, consuming and giving out. So FME can obviously automate that process. We know from organisation A we're going to get data in this format, B will do something slightly different, but we know the schemas are going to be able to be mapped in FME and in a consistent database spat out at the end. So, you know, FME is just great for all that kind of data heavy lifting stuff. We've been using OneSpatial to train myself and various colleagues at the GLA in the use of FME. David Eagle, who's been the trainer, has come down to City Hall and spent 3 days in the basement at City Hall training me and colleagues. I think we had about a dozen of us getting trained in the end. You know, David, very capable, very knowledgeable obviously, and great at following up on sort of issues that we had after the event. So workbenches we couldn't quite get to run, transformers we were having problems with. You know, he was great at you know, responding to those and picking up the issues and resolving them for us. So yeah, OneSpatial have been great on the training support for the GLA certainly. Yes, FME, people at the organisation probably don't know, but it's running the business to a degree. You know, we're using it every single day. At least half a dozen colleagues, you know, first thing we do in the morning after the coffee is launch FME and start playing with workbenches and checking processes of a run, etc. So it really is driving a lot of the data work going on at City Hall in London, behind the data store, behind Pan London projects, working with London boroughs, and behind just all that core data that a lot of the people in the organisation are using. So it's pretty important to our organisation, I'd say. Okay, so we've got FME to do lots of things, some more interesting than others. The outputs are obviously some of the most interesting things. We've got an application called London Schools Atlas, which is basically a web app where you can select schools and work out where the kids are coming from to attend those schools. It'll also tell you what schools are feeding that school, so what primary school pupils are feeding the secondaries. So it gives us all this catchment information around London. And that's all driven by something called the National Pupil Database. This is Department for Education data set, 8 million kids in the country. It's a data set that the GLA licensed to access, and FME is driving all the processing behind that. So it's taken that 8 million rows of children, it's all anonymised. It does all the spatial joins and clipping to London, also does all the school disclosure control as well, so we can only publish flows between catchments and schools above a certain value, so it does all that and spits out a nice JavaScript file that we can then be using our web maps and updated on an annual basis. So that's our core application, the London Schools Atlas. Check it out.